Engineers Ireland membership delivers with our extensive online resource centre. Engage today and make the most of your Engineers Ireland membership. Engineering is all about solving real-world challenges, making our cities smarter, infrastructure safer, and industries more efficient.
You know, whether it's a project not going right or anything else, you will find that in Siemens, there's very, very likely going to be many other people in other countries who have had the same problems. More importantly, had the same solutions. So there's always somebody to turn to. There's always somebody to get advice from. There's always somebody who has been in that situation. We have a term we use in Siemens. If Siemens knew what Siemens know.
Hi there, my name is Dusty Rhodes and you're welcome to Amplify, the Engineers Journal podcast. Today we're exploring the future of infrastructure, the critical role of safety and sustainability and the leadership qualities that it takes to get us there. Our guest will be sharing insights on the importance of fire in engineering, how their company undertook one of Ireland's first ever major infrastructure projects and how they are driving innovation towards our future. It's a pleasure to welcome the General Manager and Executive Director at Siemens Limited Ireland, Joe Walsh. How are you?
Yeah, thanks Dusty. I'm fine, no problems. Looking forward to our chat.
Well, listen, let's start off with, if someone was to look at your career, I mean, it's pretty clear to see the fire is your thing. Is there a particular story that you can tell us that first sparked your interest in fire and engineering?
I started as an apprentice. I served my time as an electrician and I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I learned some fantastic life skills during that process. Now, they were different times. Lots of things about the construction industry were completely different than they are today. And then as I came to the end of that, of course, these were in the days we didn't have AI at that point, but I knew that I wanted a little bit more. So I actually went back to school and did some industrial electronics. And that then opened up other doors with the background of the electrical trade, and the electronics opened up specialities. Let's put it that way. So there's lots of specialities around the electrical industry, whether that's power factor or heating and ventilation. As it happens, my first job was actually with a telephone company. But again, you know, with the combination of electrical and electronics, those sorts of things open up. And then from there, I got a job in an Irish company, and they were doing fire detection systems. So I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed that role, and I was able to use, you know, the very practical skill set that I had from the electrical industry and the electronics, and get into this fire detection and alarm systems. And that was great. That was a great time. That was a small Irish company called Champion Fire Defence. And that was really a lot of good learning in there. One of the things I learned very quickly was this equipment is not going to give me any trouble at all. You know, you learn the equipment very easily. It either does it or it doesn't do it. And if it doesn't do it, you find out why and you solve it and you move on. The real challenge was always going to be around people and delivering projects.
Let's move on and chat about Siemens, because Siemens have been established in Ireland for a century at this stage, 100 years. And the company's first gig here was big. Tell me everything.
Okay, well, I mean, we're very proud. 2025, we celebrate our centenary. So we're very proud that we have been in Ireland and we have been supporting the Irish economy in all of that time. Of course, it started in 1925. We were incorporated in 1925. And the reason we were incorporated was to build the Shannon scheme at Ardnacrusha. And that really was a fantastic project. There are so many aspects to that project. But generally speaking, if you just imagine at that time, That was our first government. We weren't long out of a very nasty civil war, and there was still a lot of lingering tensions at that time. Many parts of Europe were still coming out of the disaster of World War One. So it was an uncertain time. And a young Siemens engineer, Thomas McLaughlin, he was from Dundalk, and he was working for Siemens in Berlin. And he went to his bosses in Siemens. Siemens had done some hydroelectric plants in Europe. And he put it to them that there was a fantastic opportunity to harness the power of the Shannon. And they got on board with that, and they put together a white paper and they presented it to the first Irish government. The investment was 5.2 million sterling, which at the time was 20% of GDP. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think in today's money, that's probably about 25 billion. So either way, it's a very large sum, which in itself was a very large risk. But to be fair, the first government, they had the courage because they could see that taking Ireland from a rural, non-industrial society into an industrial society where we could bring power into every house and every farm made perfect sense. And there was pressure on that government at the time not to invest so much in Ardnacrusha, rather to do something on the Liffey, do something smaller. But they stuck with it, and they didn't just give the contract to Siemens, by the way. They went to Europe and they took some second opinions from other countries in Scandinavia and Switzerland to go through the white paper to see were there any, big gaps in it. But anyway, there weren't. And we started in 1925.
As a baby country, just, kind of emerging into the world, how many people did it take to build that facility at Ardnacrusha?
Well, at the height of the construction, there was up to 5,000 people employed. Now, that number was a combination of German engineers from Siemens who were on site and lived on site, and then lots of local labour. And when I say local labour, that was from all over Ireland. It wasn't just from Limerick and Clare. There was labour from all over Ireland involved in Ardnacrusha because there was work. So at the height, it was 5,000.
And when the project was finished then and began generating power, how much of the country's power did it generate?
Well, remember, we were starting at zero, right? More or less starting at zero, right? So it generates 83 megawatts, which at that time was enough to power the entire country. At that time. Today, if you go down to Ardnacrusha today, I mean, it's not a museum. It's a working power station today. And today it continues to generate. And it, depending on the particular day and how much wind is blowing and other variables, it generates between 2 and 3%, depending on what ESB need on the network at that time. So at the time, it was 87 megawatts, which was easily enough to power the nation. Because remember, if you went into a household at that point, it was just one light and one socket. Entirely different today. I mean,
I know, but it's phenomenal to think, when you think of Ireland and the pictures that you have of the Civil War, and I always think of the Michael Collins movie and stuff like that, to think that the company came in here, it started here, it took on that massive project with so many thousand people and was generating electricity for the entire, just getting electricity to the entire country as well as building the plant was a phenomenal achievement. And then when you think that 100 years later, it's still working. I can't think of very many engineering companies today, or very many companies today, can kind of go, well, we did this gig 100 years ago and it's still working, so working. And congratulations.
And I can tell you, if in Ardnacrusha, the ESB team who look after Ardnacrusha, they welcome visitors. And if you go and see it, it's really powerful, and it's very inspiring to see how passionate the ESB staff are about the place. I mean, I was actually there last week, and the takeaway looking at the head race and the drop and the tail race and the turbines, that's really powerful engineering. It's fantastic scale of engineering. But that's not what I took away. What I took away was the passion that the ESB staff have for the place. The heart is in it. Let me just leave it at that. The heart is in it. And that was my takeaway when I walked away last week.
But when you get into, kind of an industry like engineering, people get into it because they like it and there's a challenge and they do have a passion for it. In your own position at the moment, at the head of Siemens, what passion do you have at the moment for what are your passion projects?
Well, there are lots of different projects. Since Ardnacrusha, we have been involved in lots of varied projects. Just for example, after Ardnacrusha, we continued to work with ESB. Today, we continue to work with ESB. We were very much involved with the turbines in Turlock Hill. We did the electrification of the Dart. We did the baggage handling system in Terminal 2 of Dublin Airport. We did the first CT scanner in Ireland. We did the first MRI in Ireland. And we continue to work with all sorts of industries, whether they're Irish industries or international industries. We work behind the scenes, helping them on their journey towards sustainability and digitalization. Now, to answer, the projects are very varied. But to answer your question, where's my passion? It's to take the current business that we have and the model that we have and bring it into the future. So if you peel back Siemens and open it up, we are in our DNA an engineering company. We have been selling solutions and products for years, and we would have this very strong brand that if you buy a piece of kit or you buy a solution from Siemens, it's going to work and it's going to work into the long term. So that's all great stuff. But we are also do a lot of work with software, and the real where we can really get our teeth into it is the next phase, whereby we use the software to connect all of our good hardware, get it into the cloud, and then collect the data and use AI to analyze the data. And what that really and truly does is it enables our customers to increase their efficiency around resources or energy. So that's the journey we're on now. We've always been good at engineering. We've always been good at innovating and putting time and effort into R&D. That's always been in our DNA. But the next phase, when you look forward, is the software piece, to grow the software part of Siemens and accelerate all of the good stuff that the hardware can do.
You mentioned AI, so let me ask you about that. Where is AI playing a part in your operations now, and where do you see it maybe in? I'm going to say 10 years, just for the crack, to put you under pressure.
Yeah, okay, great question. So where are we today with AI? Well, my answer to that is really simple. We are, all of us, whether it's Siemens or whether it's Engineers Ireland, it doesn't really matter. We are all surrounded by AI. Make no mistake about that. We all utilize AI. So AI is everywhere. Where we see it in Siemens at the moment is we are using AI around the tools that we use. So, we see these improvements coming all of the time. I'll give you a very good, tangible example of AI now in a moment. But to answer the next part of it, where is it going to be in 10 years? Well, I don't think anybody can really answer that. But what I can say is this: we're all going to be in a different place. And there is no question at all that everybody's role or everybody's day-to-day will be different. And AI will be behind the scenes making it different. There is absolutely no question in my mind about that. Exactly where that brings us to in 10 years' time, well, that's going to be fascinating to watch. And what I would say to you is, wherever that landing place is, you'll find Siemens right at the heart of it. And the reason I say that, and the reason I say that with confidence, There's no doubt in my mind, because just recently, Siemens have invested hugely on the software side. So we've just recently acquired a US software company called Altair. And even more recently, the next acquisition was another company called Dotmatics. Now, what these are now acquired by Siemens. Can you believe that investment was 15 billion for both of them, 10 and 5? And what that will really do is bring on, we already use digital twins, but it's going to bring digital twins to the next level. So as I say, we're already using digital twins. So, I mean, this is really and truly where we're going to get into resource efficiency, whereby you actually build your project. So imagine Ardnacrusha in 1925. We in our headquarters and down on site, they still have a lot of the drawings. They're all done by hand, and fantastic engineering work, fantastic. But if we were doing Ardnacrusha today, we would build it digitally, and we would do that. And by doing it digitally, we can utilize our skill sets all around Siemens. So it wouldn't be just a team in Ireland. It could be anywhere. And you can bring in your customer and you can do your testing and then eventually hand over the digital twin. And you've made all the mistakes. This is where you make your mistakes. You make your mistakes digitally, you correct them, you test, you retest, you agree, that's it. And then you hand that to the builder, who goes and builds it to that specification. So the acquisition of Altair and Dotmatics is very focused on the life science industry. And life science is an area that we support a lot of companies in Ireland, but we kind of work behind the scenes. You wouldn't see or hear that much of us, but we're behind the scenes supporting those companies on their journey. But to give you a tangible, concrete example, and you started this discussion off talking about the fire industry. So here we go. So last year, we have had a relationship with the Irish Prison Service for many years. And what we've been doing with the prison service is providing life safety systems in 11 of the prisons in Ireland. And with the advance of technology, what we did with the prison service last year was we took 8 of those 11 and we upgraded them such that we connected them to the cloud. So before we did that, our teams would go onto site and they would manually test each sensor. Nothing wrong with that. But now what we're doing is we're increasing the frequency of testing because we're connected to the cloud. We're standardizing the testing so every detector is tested exactly in the same way. So that's improving the performance. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because of that application, when our guys or anybody goes into a prison, any contractor goes into a prison, they have to be escorted. Can't just walk into a prison and walk. So by taking the testing to an entirely different platform, we've increased the quality of the testing and we've reduced the escort time. So that's real value back to the prison service. And now, because all of this stuff is being done in the cloud, all of the records, because records around fire safety are really important, but all of those records are now available in the cloud and we can give those back to the customer in whatever format they want. So they can look at it on a phone or a laptop or a PC or whatever they want. And it's all in perfect condition and it's there forever. So that's a very real, tangible example of the technology that we had, which is fantastic technology, no problems with the kit, but transforming it with the use of the cloud and AI. And what will happen there is, as AI develops, we'll be able to do more with that connection.
Yeah. And with all that consistent testing, the AI is able to monitor so many millions of data points like every second. But I'm quite sure that one day, instead of kind of going, we've discovered a problem, I need an engineer here to help me, the AI will go, no, I'll fix it myself. Do you think?
to summarize it, what it does is it changes the routine from reactive to proactive. So the AI gets ahead and can see much better than any human that, oh, there's something about that sensor I don't quite like, but it will get that way before any human intervention would. So you're preventing problems as opposed to reacting to them.
Let me ask you, as the man at the top, right? Because Siemens do so many amazing things, but they're all different things, okay? How do you, with your team in Ireland, foster a culture of creativity and problem solving?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd answer that simply by saying that what we work really hard. We work really hard to create a sense of belonging and ownership. And if we can do that, and people feel that they are part of the company. To give you an example, if you look at the global numbers, there's over 300,000 employees. Today, more than 50% of those own shares in Siemens. So that gives you a sense of ownership. Now, you may not be a big shareholder, but you own a part of Siemens. And if we then try and give everybody a sense of belonging, what we're really trying to do is to bring every member of staff and get them to fulfill their potential. So I'm not quite answering the innovation piece of that. What I'm really saying to you is this is no different we're no different to any industry or any sector. We are the sum of our people. And if we can foster belonging and ownership, well then now we can start to think about innovation. And when we talk about innovation in Siemens, it's a great story. Again, I'll throw a figure at you. Last year, we invested, when we finished the last financial year, we invested over 5 billion in R&D. That's a global figure, obviously. So innovation is in our DNA. A lot of that innovation, again, if you just think about my role, Siemens in Ireland. So we are like a sales office and the interface with our customer. But behind the scenes, we have our headquarter. And this is one of the advantages that we have. So we have very long-term relationships with our customer. And then we can bring in the innovation from the headquarters and the power of the headquarters. And when you do that, and you do that time and time and time again over the course of the last 100 years, what you find is innovation becomes part of what we do. So there's no simple answer to, well, we tell people to go home and dream up new ideas. It's more of a culture, and it's built upon long-term and trying to keep our staff and keep them learning.
I was going to ask you that, because everything is evolving and engineering is evolving, and it's at such a high level at the moment. How do you keep learning and staying ahead? How do you do that for the people working with you? How do you do it for yourself, Joe?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's life is busy. Life is busy, and it's really a question of priorities. And the day job takes up a lot of time and it takes up a lot of energy. So, you only have a certain resource left. But, when it comes to the learning, to be fair to Siemens, what we have done is we have created a suite of learning. So again, I have to put it back into the headquarters because it's centralized and it's available to every member of staff. So I can go on to Siemens now and I can type in AI, and a multiple of courses will pop up in front of me, and I can do them virtually and I can do them at my own time and pace. And it doesn't really matter what you type in. I could put in business excellence, I could put in logistics, or I could put in HR. All of the business categories are in there, and they're all available to every member of staff. But making it available is one thing. It's really to try and get the culture such that they have some time and space to actually do it. And that's where the real trick is, because it's very much the pace the world is going at. It's not what you know today. It's more about how you learn. That's the real trick. And trying to give our staff the space to get the day job done and do some learning. And that's the real challenge.
We shall return to our podcast in just a few moments, but first, some news. The Engineers Ireland app is now available to download from both the Apple and Google Play stores. With it, you can book events, log your CPD, read articles, and always be in the know on what's coming up. To get it, simply search Engineers Ireland in the App Store to engage today and make the most of your Engineers Ireland membership. Have you yourself worked on a project that didn't go to plan, and what did you learn from it? I see that look. I've worked on loads of projects that didn't go to plan. What's in my head is you're talking about doing the courses, so it's great. You're learning academically about things that might happen. Then you're on a job and you're learning things as you go along because you're presented with problems. You're going to go, oh God, what am I going to do here? And you figure it out. So I'm trying to figure out the difference, or to get an example from yourself about a project that wasn't going quite to plan. What did you learn from it?
It's a great question. And anybody in my position will tell you that, there are many projects that don't go the way you want them to go, whether that's, cost, or whether that's delays, or whatever, resource, whatever. There's lots of different reasons. So what we do in Siemens is we have developed a means by which we deliver. So we call it project management at Siemens. So we break the project into stages. So the first stage is, let's say, the sales stage, actually. So that's very much at the sales stage. And then you reach a point where that becomes an instruction from the customer. And now we hand over to our execution. And when we go through the execution, we install a whole series of quality dates. Now, that doesn't guarantee that the project may not go wrong. I mean, there are so many stakeholders in a project. And, you take any of the large projects, generally speaking, they're going to be led by the civil company, the civil construction company. And then there'll be mechanical and electrical companies. And then there'll be all sorts of specialist companies. And there'll be all sorts of time pressures. So there are multiple stakeholders. And once you have multiple stakeholders, obviously the risk increases. So what we're trying to do is to get through it stage by stage and pass each quality gate. And we have standardized that in Siemens because we had lots of projects that didn't go right all around the world. And again, whether it's a project not going right or anything else, you will find that in Siemens, there's very, very likely going to be many other people in other countries who have had the same problems. More importantly, had the same solutions. So there's always somebody to turn to. There's always somebody to get advice from. There's always somebody who has been in that situation. We have a term we use in Siemens. If Siemens knew what Siemens know. And it's very simple. It really is very simple because we have, somebody says, what is experience? Well, experience is the sum of your mistakes. That's another way to say it. It's the sum of your mistakes. But the real trick is to learn from them and to keep that learning continuous.
If only Siemens knew what Siemens knows.
Exactly.
What about if only Joe Walsh knew what Joe Walsh actually knows? If you could go back to yourself in your mid-20s, what piece of career advice would you give yourself?
Oh, I'm not sure that I have anything really profound.
No, it doesn't have to be anything profound. Practical.
I would always be on the practical side. I said to you at the outset, some of the best learning I did was when I was an apprentice. And at that time, in that environment, you didn't really get much time or space. You were expected to be on time. You were expected to get it done. You were expected to have all your stuff. And next. do it all again, and next and next. And you really didn't get a lot of space, which in itself was a fantastic learning. So if I was to go back, I think what I'd be saying might sound old fashioned now, but fundamentally, get your teeth into it and bring your whole self to it. And if you bring your whole self to it and you work with good colleagues, things tend to work out. And of course there'll be problems, and of course there'll be difficulties. But when you encounter those difficulties, you really don't have many choices. You've got to step back and ask yourself, well, what is this problem? What are the options do I have? And then take some advice. So today, I have no difficulty telling you, I have a very close working relationship with our CFO, and I speak to him. I could speak to him on a daily basis. I certainly speak to him every second day. And, when you're doing that and you're picking up from other people who have different skill sets, generally speaking, to take the right options when you find you have a hurdle to jump over. So to answer your question, Dusty, I don't have anything profound to say other than if you're going to get into a job, or you're going to take on a task within a job, bring your whole self and apply yourself, and things generally work out. And when they, when you feel the pressure, because you will feel the pressure, go and seek advice. Go and seek advice from colleagues who understand you and get it, and will be able to give constructive advice. I've heard a lot of advice out there. I would think, oh, I'm not sure I'm going to take that advice. So you need to be selective as to who you engage with.
I'm very much the same myself, in that people ask me, how do you do these things? And I always say, just take the first step. It's exactly what you say. It's just get stuck in, just do something, and problems will occur. And as you say, you learn to figure them out. You learn to get advice from other people, and you learn from other people and all that kind of stuff. And that's what makes the world interesting. I'm absolutely fascinated with you, Joe, because you've been in the industry for a while, but yet you're still really passionate and you're very supportive of people. What keeps you motivated?
I would say, Dusty, there's a series of answers to that, right? The reality of my story is I come from a humble background. My dad was a butcher, and unfortunately he lost his wife, my mother, when we were very young. So he found himself with 5 kids, the eldest 9. So that was a tough environment. But he had this fantastic attribute of being able to see the best in people. So that's always in the back of my mind. How can you bring out the best in somebody else? That's always there. And I look back that far to, where did that come from? That's where it comes from. For me, that's where it comes from. And how do you keep it fresh today? Well, I don't struggle with that, actually. I mean, in the role that I'm doing, it's always busy. It's always on. And because of my nature, I think it suits me. I like it. I like it when it's on. I like to be proactive. I like to get my teeth into things. And that always come relatively easy to me. I think it's fair to say I've never, got out of bed and think, oh my God, I have to go to work today. That's never been my modus operandi. I've always got up early and go and see where it takes me. So I don't know. It's in my DNA. It's not something that I work on. It's not something that I'm not looking in the mirror practicing. It's just in my DNA, and I give it my best shot.
Would it be fair to say that you're a man who likes a challenge, finding a problem, fixing it, that kind of stuff? Is that what keeps you young?
I like to get my teeth into things. But I'm not trying to change the world. I mean, the way I would respond to that is, it's very rewarding when you get involved in a project. I'll give you an example, a real life example. So I said to you at the outset, we're very proud that we have reached the centenary in Ireland. We're very proud of that, and we're very proud of the role we've played to support government and industry. But in 2024. we had to start to think about the centenary. Well, what are we going to do about this? And we put together a small team, and we celebrated in January. And that small team was a Siemens team, and we set up a small working group with ESB, because ESB played such a huge role in Ardnacrusha and electrifying the nation. They were very much part of that story. And we also in the working group, we had the Department of Energy. So when we finished it, it was very rewarding. It was very tough going now, but it was very rewarding. And the rewarding piece that for me was not that it was my gig. It wasn't my gig. It was a collective effort of a small team in Siemens and a team in ESB and a team in the Department of Energy. And that's really what inspires me. It's not so much that I'm going to be a lone wolf. That doesn't do it for me. And I know that does for some people, but that's not really me. The preparations for the centenary with those small teams, that's really and truly what does it for myself.
Well, listen, Joe, just over the last half hour or so, I've learned, a lot about engineering, which I was kind of expected to, but you've taught me so much about life and things that you say about, career and working with other people and the importance of looking after yourself at the same time as well. It's so many gems of wisdom in there. I can't thank you enough. If you'd like to find out more about Joe and some of the topics that we did have a chat about today, you'll find notes and link details in the description area of the podcast. But for now, Executive Director and General Manager at Siemens Ireland Limited, Joe Walsh, thank you so much.
Thanks, Dusty. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Much obliged.
And if you enjoyed our podcast today, please do share with a friend in the business. Just tell them to search for Engineers Ireland Amplified in their podcast player. The podcast is produced by dustpod.io for Engineers Ireland. For advanced episodes and more information on career development opportunities, there are libraries of information on the website at engineersireland.ie. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, thank you for listening. Engineers Ireland membership delivers with access to the exclusive EBSCO library. Engage today and make the most of your Engineers Ireland membership.